Hey, and welcome everyone to tuning in to the Hub Scale podcast. This week, I have Joe Moles, Senior VP of Product and Ops at Red Canary. I'm super excited to delve into Joe's journey, challenges, achievements, and everything in between. Massive thanks, Joe, for joining me.
Hey, thanks, Jake. I'm excited to be here.
Great stuff, great stuff. Well, to kick us off, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's delve into it.
Yeah. So I've been in tech now for better part of 20 plus years. Started kind of fell into security early on actually through first job out of college was working at a police department, and then they needed an IT guy, and kind of one thing led to another, and fell into the security realm, and then kind of came up through, spent most of my time in security operations in some way, shape, or form. Worked for some bigger companies. Did a good stint at Motorola, working. Initially that was my first exposure to like a true SOC, coming up through that, and then took a path through working in forensics, e-discovery, and then kind of along those ways, staying in kind of again that operations blue team side and working on SIM projects and other things like that. And then the last 10 years I've been here at Red Canary. I joined the team. This was my first startup. Wanted to do something different, and wanted to or told the original founding team, wanted to build a security operations program, what I thought was the right way. Um, so had some hypothesis on how to do security operations in a way that one was more efficient and more effective, but more importantly was a better working experience for your frontline analysts, and kept them more engaged, more interested, and gave them an opportunity to really make a difference. And so that's what we've done. And I've gotten that, and we've got a really strong team, and I oversee all of our product delivery, so engineering, security operations, and product management for Red Canary. So it's been a fun trip.
Yeah, that's amazing. You've been there for a long time. How many years is it?
It's been 10 years. So I was depending on how you count, I tell people I was either employee three or number nine. So there was the original six people that's that when the company launched,
Mm.
and then there was two external hires before me by a couple of weeks. Um, and so I think my original title was Tier 2 Analyst, and it was myself and one of the co-founders, and then one individual that's still with us that I brought over a few months later. They kind of did all the original security operations, detection, writing analytics, the whole nine yards, and then kind of grew the program from there. So it's been a fun decade.
Yeah. And you've obviously got up to senior VP now and
Yep.
yeah, how's I suppose just from the 10 years, how I suppose the journey that you've been on, how have you sort of got to that level? Like what's been that I don't know, yeah, what's been the push and like how have you got there and yeah.
It's been a couple of things. It's one, just like a really good leadership team that gave me the kind of the freedom to kind of run things my way, and do some experiments, and take some opportunities, and just, hey, here's the mark we need to hit, and then and manage to that, and be creative. And then the other thing is just, I've had a lot of really good people next to me, and working with me and for me, that have helped build that up. I'm a really big proponent of when I have a new need, or I need to expand the team, especially from a leadership perspective. There's a lot of reflection of what am I good at, what am I not good at, and where do I need to fill that in. And so kind of that whole how do you build a team is really important to me, and it's been part of how I've been able to be successful. So bringing in people, whether it's building the initial operations team and going, hey, we don't need just pure detection, analysts or anything. I need some people who have, some red team experience, some forensics experience, some engineering experience, and being able to balance that, and bring that kind of mix together. And then it's the same thing from building, like, then building those layers in and around me. Hey, you got to a point where I needed to develop more of my frontline managers. And so I hired, and he's still with me, he runs engineering now. I brought in a guy, Todd Geiser, he's been a great partner and has really brought in a different set of skills and experience in developing leaders and developing people. He's been awesome. In the last year or two, I brought in our SVP of product management, and Mary Rich, she brings a wealth of stuff of like really building a really rich product management program, building a lot of strategy, and has been an awesome partner to work with me and everything. And so finding these people that can help fill in those opportunities, and knowing that self-awareness of like, hey, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm
Yeah.
passionate at, and bringing that, just kind of surrounding, it's like I call it, I've told people you got to build that scaffolding, that brings and stabilizes the organization up, down, left, right,
Yeah.
and be candid with yourself.
Yeah. Seem like delegate the things that you may be
Yep.
not as strong with, and obviously do the things that you are. Yeah, without which I think is the foundation of every business that wants to scale and wants to grow. You can't do it all yourself, can you? You
Yeah,
can't.
and anytime you bring somebody else in, you can't do your old job. If you're bringing somebody else in, it's like at some point you have to leave your old job behind and know what that focus is, and yeah, to your point, delegate and let go of certain things.
Yeah. Have you enjoyed getting away from the hands-on, and obviously you've come from a technical background and the engineering front, have you enjoyed just getting away from that and the leadership and what that comes with?
I do. I mean, it's early on I figured out I really like hanging out and being around technical people and being in those conversations. But at the end of the day, doing the actual technical work isn't where my passion is. I really do enjoy enabling people, helping kind of, be a voice in the room, having the debate but like helping people grow, helping people establish their role and find their place in providing that. But then also it's been, thing I didn't expect is really just understanding the business side of this and like, hey, taking, as a frontline technical person, it was a little bit insular and like, hey, how do we protect the team? And like now it's, I've learned to kind of like, hey, how do we think about this different? There is trade-offs. There is, hey, in order to keep delivering our mission as a business, we do have to do sales. Like sales isn't a dirty word. Like that was a thing for the technical nerds out there. Like, no, like this is how we all get paid, but this is also how we continue to fund and grow our mission. And
Yeah,
understanding that and then being able to that opened up a lot of opportunity for me because then, like gave drives into that passion, that mission is like, hey, this is a different way we succeed and win at this.
nice. I think you went, and the question I'm going to ask is like how, because I've always, whenever I speak to other people in the sector, or whenever somebody's going from like engineer to a team lead, or to a team lead to a manager, it's the challenge is obviously maybe stepping away from something or learning something new, and I think
Yep.
you have touched on it really, but how did you go from, let's say, engineer to director? Did you have the people above you just guiding you and mentoring you? Has that been a big part
I
of it?
think, yeah, I think that was part of it. And I had been in some other like leadership roles and leadership opportunities. Like I had really early on in my career, there was a gentleman named Don Smith who was one of the first people who was really passionate about developing people managers. And
Yeah.
he taught me like all sorts of just basic, management techniques and like, hey, when do you lean in more? When do you lean out more? And so that's helped me set up a really good foundation from that perspective. And then the other thing I've learned is, again, kind of that don't do your old job.
Mm.
Learn that through kind of trial and error and making that mistake. But kind of the way I've told other people is, so whenever you're stepping up, you're moving up in your role, you're growing, especially when you're bringing in somebody in to help build that, you're handing something off. There's kind of this trough that you have to manage, and it's how wide and how deep because during that, there's this phase where everything's not going to run how you ran it. Maybe even not to the degree, especially if you're coming from like moving from a technical to a leadership or management role. Like there's this aspect of like, hey, things are going to dip a little bit. And you have to proactively kind of think like, how long do I let that run?
Right.
And but also how how deep does that go? And there's a balance depending on the business and trying what you do. And that's where you kind of have to be thoughtful about that and let somebody kind of come out. Because usually if you do it right, it's shallow and not too wide, and then they come out and they're actually doing it better than you could have done. And that's really winning, but you have to be thoughtful about it, and you can't just because if you go and oh, it's we're getting below where we used to operate, and you swoop in, you never give the team the chance to succeed and kind of stretch and grow into that. So you have to kind of there's a lot of little bit of let people out of the nest and fly, and understanding like there's a little bit of stumbling along the way.
Yeah, you've got to fail, I suppose, haven't you, type of thing.
Yeah,
And every fail, everyone says there's no failure; it's just learning, basically. But I think
yeah.
you fail to keep on learning, to keep on growing, basically.
Yeah, it's all it comes down to like it's basically risk management. Like you allow some amount of risk, and you just again to what's your tolerance of that, in order to get the return.
Nice. What's you've obviously we've touched on it really there, a lot of the stuff probably, but in terms of, I'm going to touch on your achievements first, really. Like, what would you say over the last 10 years have been the major achievements? What are you most proud of?
I think I mean the most proud of is again the program we built. I mean, and I can't take hardly any of the credit. Like, was a big part of it, but like from a security operations perspective, like we've built a highly efficient team. Like we have thousands of customers, millions of devices, and we're doing it with a relatively small team comparatively. And so we built between like augmenting with software and continue to figure out how to help give, security operators software and control of the software to build things. The other thing that we found, and it was part of the original, risk or hypothesis being an MDR company, like, well, how do you get software margins out? How do you grow that? How do you deliver that? And that was the first thing, but also how do you in the early, 2014 when we started this, like, hey, how are you going to staff this? And some of the things we did was like, oh, we're going to try this. We're going to be fully remote on the security operations team. Hey, we're going to do these. We're going to take these ideas of like not building tiers, and we're going to give the analyst full control over their destiny, and like and it kind of had this interesting side effects that we didn't expect, like that ability to that drove the efficiency was also the thing that built a lot of the retention and like our ability to retain talent, especially in what is traditionally kind of a low retention, low satisfaction, entry level role has been awesome. I mean, we have people 3, 4, 5, 6 years at least in that role, and they're getting new things, they're growing, and they're having an impact, and they're still passionate about the job because and I think a big part of it is because they have more control over their destiny. How do they work? They have, plus because we're operating where the team is measured as a whole as opposed to the individual. Yeah, there's individual performance and growth stuff, but like really success or failure is at the team level. And
Yeah.
so it drives this mission focus and everybody kind of rallies together and it keeps this really strong camaraderie where we actually in a organization that's probably, I think we're 450 employees total now. We
Yeah.
have, the security operation team has the historical best staffing retention rate, which is like
Yeah.
great. I'll take that all day.
Yeah. I think, like you said, it's yeah, the market's crazy, and what it's like. People don't stay in roles a year
Yeah,
and a half, maybe
yeah,
2 years. So
yeah.
I think massive kudos. I think it's something you have mentioned to me a few times in the past as well. So yeah, you should be. Yeah.
I mean, and we've had some people like I've had some people that have gone off to other gigs and like and it's almost always been positive. Like I had there's a engineer who was with us, name's Julie Brown. She's last I checked, she's a cloud engineer over at Netflix. And she came in as like an entry level, I think this was her second gig out of college, entry level detection engineer, grew up, left here as a senior staff software engineer, one of our best operators, and then went to go take a more senior role with Netflix doing cloud engineering stuff. And she did that over a 5 year span and it was like this awesome growth trajectory and like it was awesome to be able to kind of be part of that journey and help kind of here's an opportunity, and then she took it and ran with it. And like those kind of successes are things I'm really proud of.
Yeah, 100%. Do you take a lot of people then from like grad level or college level? And yeah, is that
Yeah,
something?
we try and it's a mix, like,
Yeah.
but we've gotten to a point where we really try and create capacity and always looking for opportunities where I can create those opportunities for growth. So we've done a couple different things. Like we work with a program here called SkillBridge, which is a internship and partnership with the U.S. Military, where transitioning military staff come in, at the end of their tour, and then, get to work with us as kind of as an internship role,
Mm.
and kind of as that transition. We've hired a bunch of those folk, and we've had a bunch of them that like come in, did their thing here, and then, at the end of their tour and everything, gone on to other roles and other places in the company. It's been a big thing. Working on some other programs with, in partnerships. We've also kind of always carved off, we've started carving off like what we call an associate level role, where it's, hey, we're just looking for potential, like zero experience, but high potential.
Yeah.
And with the expectation of like, hey, you're coming in this role, the expectation is within a year, you kind of grow into our, what we consider like the base level, the actual base level role. And everybody that we've brought into that role has actually exceeded our expectations, and within 6 to 9 months is kind of bumping up and jumping into those higher level opportunities, which is great. And it's part of our training program and our onboarding program. It's very immersive. It's kind of, throw you in the deep end and go work with everybody. And again, that team mentality and that team ownership,
Yeah.
creates that kind of that space to operate and work and learn. And again, some of the things and benefits in the company is like we can find these talent that have a bunch of really interesting and creative ideas that just haven't had an opportunity and a place to exercise those. And so some of the innovations and everything that come and like give you all the building blocks, here's all the Legos, go build me something cool and get out of their way. I mean, it's a big win.
Nice. Yeah. I think it's something I've touched on before, like the military side of things and getting into cyber and security and engineering. It's seems to be a good little route for a lot of people. And I
Yeah.
think that they've just got the right sort of mentality, haven't they, for it, I think. And I think more and more companies should take that, you know.
Yeah. And I think more and more, especially, like in tech in general, but in like security, especially like open up the aperture of what you're looking for. I've
Mm.
got, there's a bunch of people I work with who, engineers, security folk, whatever, like no formal college education, maybe have a military background, came through it as a second career. And like, but they bring a certain set of skills. And again, if you're thinking about it holistically of like, hey, the company, the mission, the team, there's often a set of skills that they're bringing in that, is unique and interesting. And you plug that in and let them train other people on those skills. Like, it's all ships rise type of thing, and it's really interesting
No,
to be able to see that. So
amazing. Yeah, you've done some good stuff. And I think that I'll ask around your challenges really, because I'm guessing there's been a few. 10 years,
yeah,
grow, seeing
yeah.
differences. And yeah, I'd be very interested to hear about the challenges.
I mean, so I think they're like kind of starting in like the timeline of like we went like through this last like one of the first thing that was challenging when we started was like figuring out how to do operate as a team in a fully remote world. Like 2014, that wasn't the norm, and
No.
especially in security operations and in that highly we made a lot of mistakes. We did a lot of really awkward things. Tried a lot of things that were like, yeah, that's not cool. And we learned like you can operate, you can live in the world of Slack and everything, but you also got to get people back together. And that's like one of the things that's really important is like you have to be deliberate. Everybody can work remote, but there is a time and a place to like get everybody in kind of in the same room just for some of that camaraderie and that connection and building and having some fun together. So that
Yeah.
was one of the early challenge, and it still is a challenge of just like in this world of remote and everything, even coming out of COVID and everything else like that. It's just like, how do you keep that connection? but how do you keep the flexibility and the opportunity for people? I mean, I've got, people on my team that run around or been living the last 3 years in an RV, and everything, getting them back. So like that's one of them and continues to be an interesting challenge and like, at all levels of just, you know, facilitating that remote and being able to do that, but also then bringing it together. Um, I think, things for me personally is like had to like is just learning, like I mentioned earlier, like learning other aspects of the business. I came, I was in the weeds, tight tinfoil hat security nerd coming into this career and coming in this position and like letting go of that and you kind of, hey, I can't be, I can't be the introvert. I can't sit in the dark room like as much as I'd like to. I have to do this. I have to learn to communicate better. I have to learn to communicate in different ways. And again, those were like some of the personal challenges is changing how I operate in order to fit this role, to fit like to come to be on the product or the provider side. Everywhere else I was on like I was the internal team. It was, it was and learning those things and aspects of like that. I think those were tough. And then just startup life, doing this for 10 years now, like early on, it's yeah, I learned I am not a sales guy. I don't like doing cold calls. Like all you BDRs and SDRs out there, you like power to you, like, but man, that's a hard job. Like I do not want and like, and there's a bunch of jobs like that. It's like, but it was a challenge, but it's also the opportunity of like learning, hey, I'm actually good at some of these things. Some of these things I'm downright terrible and terrify me and like, happy to have somebody who is good at that and learn a lot of respect for that. So
Yeah, nice. That's good. Have you I suppose is there, there's obviously a lot of well, 10 years, loads of growth, I think you said you were number three or nine, however you see it. Now you're at 450. Did you say it was 450, wasn't it? That
yeah,
you're
I
at?
think yeah, like I haven't checked the official account, but yeah, it's around 450, something like that. Yeah.
I suppose, how's the future looking, for Red Canary? How's it looking in terms of the business, the products, everything like that? How much can you tell us, I suppose, in terms
I
of any?
mean, I think the business is we're continuing to grow. I'm really excited. I mean, lots of opportunity. We're in the MDR space. It's just growing like it's growing and constantly changing. So that's really interesting. The other thing like I'm excited about is like innovation opportunities. Everybody wants to throws around like the Gen AI buzzword.
Mm,
Like I'll throw it in there, but I've got a team, again, kind of cut them loose and say go figure out some interesting problems and doing some really, really neat stuff that like I understand some of it, but some of it's way over my head on just ways that we can continue to use technology plus people. And so like we've been doing a bunch of innovation because, as a MDR company, we're also like data hoarders. So we've kept record of basically all of our labeled data and all the human decisions we've made as part of our detection and part of our analysis over the last 10 years. And so we're using that, for different training models in building things like we're building in right now for on our detection engineers and everything. We're building flow investigations. Where basically you're using Gen AI agents, which as I'm maybe misusing terms. So all of my data science friends out there, bear with me, but like building beyond just the chatbot or the things is building actual pieces of code within the Gen AI models that are more dynamic and more self-aware, so to speak, to build things, but then also building them where they're taking capabilities and can start making basic decisions and going back through data and then presenting that, with evidence to a human, that human can take that the last leg. And
yeah.
so in the world, especially as we're working into, moving, we started out in EDR, now, identity and cloud and everything it's not as decisions aren't as black and white. What Joe does and where he's logging in, how he's interacting is much more dynamic because there's a squishy thing. Like computers are pretty decisive. Like it's bits and bytes, ones and zeros. People are much more analog. And so as we learn those, and so using more data and being able to move through that data more dynamically and using those code, like some of the things that are coming with that and allow us to do those level of investigations and like the efficiency gains we can further get and the ability to move and like innovate and keep cranking on that is really neat and really impressive. And just the amount of taking a bunch of disparate data and like being able to distill it down in a way that's very human consumable. And then like again, like people plus technology balance. And it's really interesting. So we've been doing a bunch of innovation there and then just expanding our scope and aperture. We've got some new products and things that are coming out later this year. We've talked about, hey, we're building a security data lake offering that's coming. We got some other things that aren't announced yet. Hopefully, I think there's potentially some announcements at Black Hat. Don't hold me to that, but like working through some of that stuff too. So really excited about where we're going.
Amazing. Sounds like it's very good stuff for you guys, and just yeah, keep on growing and keep on going. Yeah, keep on doing what you're doing. To be fair,
Yeah,
sounds good.
yeah, yeah,
I think the AI stuff is very interesting. I think it's just making sure it's. I think it's not going to replace people. I think it's just all about
yeah,
enhancing and
yeah.
yeah, just making it more add value really to your customers more than anything. I think, and that's the key.
Yeah, and that's why I said, like, the way I've described it, to use like a strained analogy, is like, some of the opportunity with Gen AI is like what the cotton gin was during the Industrial Revolution. Like, it didn't replace people. It changed the job, and it changed how the job worked, and it changed the rate at which you could scale, but it didn't fundamentally replace a human. And I think Gen AI and what the Gen AI capability and a bunch of this is, it's not going to replace the human. It's going to change the job. As a detection engineer, as a security person, I might actually be moving and learning more prompt engineering and learning how to build flow investigations and doing these things. The job is still the same. Find the bad guys, shut them down. How fast and how effective I can do that is going to be different in the scale at which we operate. And then I think there's going to be the other challenges of like data privacy and keeping that data things and like where are you putting it? Like we've been very deliberate. Like we're running all of our own. We're not using any sort of public infrastructure or public code. It's all contained in private, and we're keeping it, operating in that like in a safe manner, but like talking to people in the space and seeing where companies and are letting that run unchecked and like data is potentially being exposed is it's a super interesting challenge. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic moves. That balance between risk management and innovation.
Yeah, cool. And finally, I suppose, yeah, one piece of advice, you would give maybe yourself or anybody, at the start of their career, like what would you give somebody?
I think like when I would give myself and like I think and I give any is be honest with yourself. And it seems kind of well, duh, Joe, but like it's one of the things like I bumbled around early in my career, not being honest, like I couldn't make up my mind or commit to myself. Do I actually want to be technical and chase the shiny technical things, or do I actually want to step back and do the leadership and the management thing? And then like even within those scopes, it's really easy. And I was early in my career, did the job hop, and it was always like jump to the next shiny thing or chase the dollar. The dollar doesn't, dollar pays the bills, but it doesn't make you happy, at least not for me. And so it was like, just be really honest with yourself. What makes you happy? What makes you excited? What gets you out of bed? And like, if it can be the thing that you do for fun, is also the thing you get paid for, like that's a pretty solid win, you know. And again, pointing to people I work with and everything, like, like one of my favorite people, one of our malware and analysts, like uh Tony Lambert, he's a forensic IT guy on X. I almost said Twitter, it's X now. He was always one of the examples I pointed to because I'd say, Tony, what are you doing? It's not you're not supposed to be at work, and I see you online doing stuff. He's like, well, this is what I was going to do anyways. I was going to go pull this apart, and it was really interesting, and this is fun, and like that excitement, and like if you can find that thing, whatever that is, and like in your job and your career, go chase that and lean into it because you're going to be so much more happy and so much more, you know, engaged and everything, and so much more less stress if like you actually really enjoy what you're doing. And like, I think that's the one thing, like, it's kept me here for 10 years. Like, I really enjoy what I do. Like,
Yeah.
some days I'm like, I've ripped all my hair out already, but like, but like, it's
Still
really
got your
fun. I
beard.
really like the people I work with. Like, yeah, like I really like the opportunities. I really like engaging with the customers. I really like doing all that thing, and the opportunity to learn and develop this has been like really rewarding. And that's what just keeps me getting up and coming to work and going like, yeah, I don't know where this is going, but I really want to stay on this ride.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. And that's, yeah, class to just finish on really. So yeah, again, Joe, massive thanks
Absolutely.
joining me here at the Hubscale podcast. It was an absolute pleasure. Really, really interesting to hear about everything that's going on, everything that's going to come up. And yeah, massive thanks again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.